I felt like yesterday it was the first, like, I think Robbie put it best when we were texting. It felt like the first domino was falling, and then there was some fight back on. All right, well,
Right.
you know, coaches were speaking out, players are speaking out, and we're not quite there yet.
Here, and I tried as hard as I could to explain it from firsthand knowledge, okay? And just to let you know, when I was in high school, my mom worked at night, and she was a single parent at the time. And so after football practice, I had to go home and take care of my brother and my sister. And then I also had to work on some nights, and I was responsible for the light bill. So understand where I'm coming from here. And I tried to explain that with firsthand knowledge and try to put myself in that situation as to how it would be for me, not knowing what these kids are going through, but just from my own personal experience. And here's the text that comes in, which didn't. There's not going to be college football until at least spring, but I doubt that either unless there's a vaccine. If a kid gets the virus and he has it really bad and either dies or effects of his health are permanent, there will be lawsuits. They're not willing to take that chance. And Leroy, as far as them going back home to bad environments, they have to go home sooner or later. That's home. They go home during breaks. Parents need to take care of them. Do you not? Here's a person who cannot comprehend what I'm talking about. And that's why I tried really, really, really hard to explain my circumstance. When I went to Michigan, I could not afford to go home during break. I stayed at the University of Michigan for 4 straight years. I went to school so I could get free and okay? Everybody doesn't have the ability. Maybe the local kids can go home. I was from New Orleans and went to school in Michigan. I didn't have that luxury. My family could not afford for me to go home.
Lou Headley might not be allowed to go back to Australia.
Right. Well, he don't count.
No,
he's old as some of the
it's no joke.
What's that, Robbie?
They've been talking about this travel ban on Shark Week, and then they're all in Australia. Nobody's allowed to go, and so yeah.
Australia wants no part of us. They get the hell out of here.
So I don't understand. And again, all I'm asking is when you make these decisions, okay? Because to me, if you understand that there may be some risk, but we are keeping these kids safer than they would normally be, then the risk becomes different, right? But if you only think of it from your standpoint and say, hey, if they get on their own dime, that's on them. Wouldn't you be more pissed off if a person, if Nick Saban were to do that? How would you feel sending your kid to that coach? When his concern wasn't about your kid, it was about his liability.
Well, I think it's probably why you see a lot of coaches who are coming out and seeing like they are pro
because
player.
they've gone down to these places. They've
Sure.
gone to these kids' houses. They understand where they come from. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't play. But what I'm saying is the reasons why I'm hearing that college football won't be played is not the full picture. It's not the entire story as to what would be safer or not. And so this guy texted clearly does not understand a word that I said. And so let's think about it from that standpoint. And I'm getting more upset about it, not because they will or won't play, but the only people that are even talking about where these kids are coming from are the people that had to deal with these kids and go into their houses and go into the areas that they grew up in, and they go, man, if we send them back home, we actually have the best environment for them during COVID.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that you would say, and I don't know if they're going to be in a pure college situation because I don't know how many places are going to have campus life and places where kids can get COVID, is I would say a locker room, and I think we saw this with the Marlins, is a pretty rampant place where COVID could spread fast, which would increase
unless nobody has it, right?
But I'm not making that. I'm saying
right.
if somebody gets it, these kids are going to be in an environment where a lot of them will get it, and again, most of them will probably be fine.
Worst case scenario is so far, right?
Is what?
The worst case scenario this summer was Clemson.
It would have been the worst case scenario if it was Clemson, Clemson a week there before the ACC championship, I would think.
No, but I'm saying so far as an
just number of cases,
Right, correct.
Yeah. But I think that there still has to be, like, I get what you're saying, environment-wise, safety, all that's true. But also, if somebody were to get it, they can go into a spot where they can spread it a lot because these guys are in close proximity. They're sweating all over each other. They're in gyms. They're in a locker room. They're showering together. And I'm sure they'll also do as much as they can or they're traveling together. Or, let's say somebody gets it and then they travel on a plane to go somewhere to a game. That they probably won't do even if they're home and they are going out and about life or doing like most of us do for simple quarantine. We're probably not in proximity with 100 people. So there are places where it's not necessarily the safest. But I do think that there is something to the fact of on campus, can you keep it in somewhat of their own little bubble hub outside of them going to the games? Yeah, probably. But if it doesn't work, it can.
Somebody said Leroy quit.
It can get bad.
Right. Leroy quit straddling the fence. As a football player, would you play or would not play? Really?
I think he hasn't straddled the fence. I'm pretty sure he's been pretty.
Like what?
Do you know what straddling the fence means, sir? Let's get to headlines, Robbie. Let's guess.
This is WAXYAM South Miami and WSFS-FM HD2 Miramar, a radio.com sports station.
If anybody's straddling the fence, I would say I'm more straddling the fence because I do see both sides.
That's what I'm trying. Look, in order to have a conversation about something, you have to acknowledge the other side. That's all I was trying to do. It had nothing to do with what my decision would be, and I tried to give you my own personal background to let you know what my decision would be.
I think the thing that's interesting about it is I'm sorry it comes back to this for me, but I look at this and I'm just like, well, so let me get this straight. So, and all the things you're saying is great, Leroy, about like the environment and these kids are getting a chance and they're in safer neighborhoods. However, and also, so the whole fabric financially of these organizations is relied upon these kids who you give no money to. Also on top of that. And, it would just kind of be nice. I'm just saying, like, if you're telling me all these, and I know that there's, IRS stuff and and Title IX and all that type of stuff. But it is interesting watching all of these schools kind of scramble and saying, man, if we can't do this, then nothing can go on. And just like, well, really? Interesting.
And I promise you, if you went to all the other sports and told them, hey, if there's no football, your sport could get canceled. How much nicer would they be to the football players to make the decision to play?
Oh, sure.
Right. So it, I don't know if I would trust the kids to make the decision, but it's to the point now where I don't trust that the people who are actually making the decisions are actually using all the information to make an educated decision because I mean, you think a college football kid cares if he's locked down for 2 or 3 months? He is anyway.
Right.
He is anyway.
I don't think that's a big deal.
And let's think of it this way. If they only have school online, right? You think you're going to be able to keep all your players eligible, sending them home?
You don't know sale on that?
No sale. No sale.
Robbie, give us some.
I know some of us, right? Mm-hmm. Those first couple of years, getting into college and thinking, "Woo, we free," right? They had to come get us to go to class at times. We had training table for a reason, for knuckleheads like us.
Robbie,
so
give us some headlines.
He dropped a statement about this whole situation. He dropped some what the testing that's going on in his Michigan program. He said,
Harbaugh, do me a favor, keep it a little bit shorter, all right? I ain't reading that whole thing.
Well, he said that, they had 11 positive tests out of 893 administered upon initial return to campus, and then 2 positive tests in the last 417 tests, and 0 positive tests in the last 353 tests. And he also said 0 positive tests among the coaches or staff over the entire 8 weeks of testing. Those are just some of the cliff notes of his long statement.
It's because Harbaugh drinks his milk?
I don't know, because maybe, and here's the other thing you have to understand. Maybe every school doesn't have the money
to test like crazy.
To do that. Okay? That's where the NCAA needs to step in.
Yes.
These are the requirements. This is what you need to do. And we go about it that way.
No doubt.
Here, let's just think of it from this standpoint. We are not at Intercom right now because it's probably safer for us to be at home.
Yeah.
But the circumstances in which we live are a lot better than some of these kids.
Definitely.
Now, if we did the same thing for these players, are you telling me that the conditions are going to be better? Like, let's not think long-term about the COVID. Let's think long-term about these student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Just going to school.
Just going to school, getting that degree, coming back, being back with their homeboys. Is anything, you think you're going to have an uptick in things going wrong? Okay? A lot of the times, and I'll tell you this, I was fortunate that I had people keep me out of that life growing up in the hood. When I got to college, I was fortunate that the university that I went to kept me out of that life. So when I went back, I wasn't about it. I didn't want no part of it. That's why I don't live in New Orleans right now. It's rough. So there's nobody to have all of these conversations because the decisions are being made coming from one point of view. And I wish there was somebody that didn't have any skin in the game, like Dr. Fauci, to go in and kind of explain the real ramifications of all this.
Does Dr. Fauci have no skin in the game? Like, I feel like he's going to be on next season with Dancing with the Stars. I mean, the way his first pitch went,
he's a superstar now. He's a superstar now.
I think Fauci's walking in some places a little bit too swaggery for my liking.
All right.
He's going to be invited to Shark Week next year.
This time, the Doc versus Shark.
Right.
Can he keep his social distance?